Hello, and welcome to Leave a Light On podcast, a show that looks to tackle the everyday struggles in our everyday lives. It's time to shed some light on it. Leave a Light On podcast is not a licensed mental health service and shouldn't be substituted for professional advice or treatment. Things discussed in this podcast are general in nature and may be of a sensitive nature. If you're struggling, please seek professional help or contact Lifeline on 13 11 14. Here's your hosts, Shane and Chev.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Leave a Light On podcast. And one of your hosts is Chev, and alongside me is Shane. How's your week been, buddy?
Yeah, how's it, Chev? It's been really good, thank you.
That's all right. We're very excited about today's episode.
Yeah, I've got a cool little voice thing on your one. It sounds like you're talking through one of those like megaphones. It's pretty cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because the louder I am, the happier I am.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're talking through a megaphone. It's really cool. I think it's going to be good for this particular podcast.
Really?
It's great, yeah. Yeah, welcome to another episode of Leave a Light On podcast to all our listeners.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Chev, for the wonderful intro as always.
Mate, I'll go all right.
Yeah, you go all right. You're pretty good. Shout out to that beard. It's looking pretty good as well.
It is looking good. Really good.
Really good.
Yeah, my missus can't keep her hands off me.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm glad I'm not your missus then. Because I'm very easy for me to keep my hands off you.
But you need to grow a beard, that little mustache. That's why it's not happening for you.
It's great. Let's get into today's episode. It's a doozy as well. I'm really excited.
We talk shit and I love it.
Yeah. Really excited about today's one. We've got not one but two guests with us.
Really excited about having two guests on.
Yeah, they're going to talk about an organisation that's pretty close to us and our hearts.
Yep.
In the industry we work in.
The mining industry.
Yeah. But not only the mining industry, they're involved in quite a few industries, which is great, and we'll get into that a little bit more. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce not one but two of our guests today. So, little drum roll coming in here. Can the Leave a Light On podcast? Let's welcome the one, the only, well, both of them, Amanda and Joe. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Leave a Light On podcast.
Leave a Light On.
Than's for having us. How's it?
Yep.
How's
G'day,
it?
lads.
Never gets old, honestly. How's it? And hello to you, Amanda.
G'day, mate.
Yeah. Or good day.
How's it?
Sorry.
How's
yeah. Okay. There we go. How's it?
How's it?
Welcome. Obviously, you guys are involved in an organisation, like we said, that's very close to our hearts, and that organisation is Mates. And I say mates because there's mates in mining, there's mates in construction, and there's mates in energy.
One more too, mate.
One more?
Yeah.
Mates
Manufacturing.
in manufacturing.
Just our newest baby.
It's the newest baby.
That's
so
it.
four kind of industries, which are, I would say, probably the biggest industries in Australia.
Yep.
Which is amazing. And the organisation does some really, really cool things when it comes to, obviously, what we're passionate about, and that's the mental health space. So without further ado, Amanda, I'm going to ask you if you can tell us firstly who you are and what you're about, and a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So my role at Mates is as a National Operations Manager for the Mates Australia Group, which encompasses the mining, energy and manufacturing divisions of Mates. People that have heard of Mates probably heard of Mates in construction. That's where we got our start, but we're celebrating 10 years in mining this year, which for us incredibly important and something we're proud of. So as you mentioned, we're about mental health, we're about suicide prevention, and for us, you know, being in that not-for-profit space, giving back to industries where we know that these topics are much needed, and we'll get into some stats a bit later as to why that is, but it's just conversations that we're really privileged to be a part of, and I know I speak for Joe when I say that, and the entire team at Mates, that we realise how incredibly privileged we are to get to travel to some of the mine sites and power plants and places like that, and have these conversations with real good people, just about in the interest of keeping each other safe, keeping our mates safe, keeping our families and our community safe. And yeah, it's something we don't really need an alarm clock to get out of bed for. We're really proud to be a part of it. So in my role, I've kind of done a bit of everything at Mates over the course of the last 6.5 years, including, you know, crisis support as a case manager and out there facilitating workshops, which I still get the privilege of doing from time to time with the team. But now to be in this position of operations manager and oversee a team of incredible staff across the country who are taking this program and just growing it day by day and reaching more and more workers out there and their families is something that I consider to be a huge privilege of my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the whole organisation as a whole is doing such great things in the space of it. So you're one little cog in the giant mechanism that keeps it going.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool. So that's amazing.
Definitely the first people we thought of, especially with the industry that we work in. We all, like me and Shane were talking, and we actually mentioned you guys on our very first episode that we wanted to have you guys on and talk about what you guys do. So it's good that you're here and shedding a lot.
Yeah,
excited,
mate.
yeah,
Look,
so.
when I got that email from you lads and jumped on and started listening to what you were doing instantly, Joe and I were talking. I was like, yep, this is something we've got to be a part of, because it's not about, just promoting a business or promoting you guys. It's about how do we actually have bigger conversations, encourage people to speak openly about an issue that's so incredibly important. And you're hard pressed now to find people that haven't been touched by a suicide in some way, shape or form. So to be a part of that with you guys and get to promote, obviously, of course, what we do and the industry we're in, but to promote that as a community message is really important for us as well.
Yeah. And for us, it's like we say, we're obviously, we're trying to just create a safe space for people just to kind of gain awareness, like you say, but just feel like they're not alone. Because often that's where we feel when you ask someone that has gone through the journey of depression or, they've tried to commit suicide, it always comes back to the fact that a lot of them feel like they're just in it alone. They don't have support, or they can't gate support, and no one's going to understand them. And so for us, we're trying to just create that space where we're saying, hey guys, there are people out there that understand what you're going through. You're not the only one. There's so many, just individuals in the same space as you. And so we're creating that platform for people to share and kind of gain insight into that, so that they don't feel like they're in that space alone. And that was the whole concept of even the name of the podcast is Leave the Light On. Where we're going to be leaving a light on for people to feel like they can just come in whenever they want, and creating that safe space. So really cool that's what your guys' goal and aim is to do in that space. And then let's move on to you, Joe. Let's hear a little bit about you. Tell us who you are, where you've come from, and then how you got into this particular role.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Shano. And thanks, Chev. We've been very well fed, and the hospitality since we walked through the door has been amazing. So thanks,
That's
mate.
good. Yeah, and that's good that it's actually been recorded too now.
Yeah.
So
Shut up. Like I said, Joe, his head didn't need to get any bigger than what it is right now.
no, honestly, as long as you guys enjoyed it, I don't care. It's all good.
Shout out to JC's.
Very grateful, mate. Very grateful.
It's good. So as long as you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm a field officer with Mates in Mining. I'm local here to Newcastle and Hunter. And I've got two fellow field officers that I work with, Joel and Britt. And then we've got three other field officers in Queensland and another one in WA. So whilst it might not seem like many in a massive machine such as mining or whatever, we do get to touch quite a lot of sites that we engage with. And like Amanda was saying, you have these conversations with people on site, and it does make a big difference, and it's a lot more fulfilling than what I used to do. I used to be a Sparky. Tried getting
We won't hold that against you.
and a Port Power fan.
We will hold that
That's how it
against
works.
you.
Go the pies.
People-
You go the pies.
Go the Crows.
I can't even add to this because I don't even like footy.
No, you're a South African. You got no say.
Oh, excuse me, world champions. Thank you very much.
Oh God, here we go. You're talking about rugby.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate it. But yeah, I grew up in South Australia and did my apprenticeship back there. And, when I finished my apprenticeship, I started chasing the coin and went FIFO working in mining. And very soon I realised this isn't for me. I found how it affected me personally. And then probably one of my big motivators most recently when I was away, because I've gone out and come back and gone out and come back to it. One of my mates was actually struggling on site one night and he reached out to me. And thankfully we got him to some help, and the medical staff on site at the camp, they got him off site, and he was very grateful for it, and so was his family. But it was just a big lens for me to just think there's more to it than, what I have been doing. And if you are the person that someone's seeking out, you're probably more or less, whether you feel it or not, you're the right person for them to be seeking out at that time. And that message is something that you build confidence in the work crews that you talk to, because you can easily say, yeah, I want to help you out, but I don't know where to go, or I don't know which option's there. So a podcast like this, we take hats off to you, because it is opening doors and opening minds to people that might be like, well, I'm suffering with this, or I'm experiencing this. Where do I go? I've got no idea.
Yeah.
Hopefully they listen to this and they get a bit of an insight. So, it's a great organisation that we work for. I was just up in Queensland recently for a health and safety conference up there. It's massive, the Queensland Mining Health and Safety Conference. And we had people approach us at our little our little vendor spot there, and they just came up and said, keep doing the great work. You know, we love what you're doing. And people that were even having a hard time that day, they came up and spoke to us. So, yeah, it was great. It was fulfilling.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, just goes to show that there is such a need for it. Hey, when you realize in that space of like,
yeah, and I mean, no one's immune to it. Like we were already talking about it before we started this recording or whatever. But you know, it ain't weak to speak. It's okay to not be okay, and we do share that message because whilst it's not ours, whilst that's not our catch cry, we understand that it takes many to make a movement and a change. So we do try and work hand in hand with other people that are in the same industry to say, you might not want to talk to mates in mining, you might want to talk to this one or that one, but there's a need for it, and people will find their own opportunity or their own option to go and seek out some help. So yeah, that's the
absolutely.
promotion.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, kudos to you guys for all the work, both of you, Amanda and Joe. I mean, I know being a field officer and stuff like that, like you say, you're kind of like the front line. You're out there, you're meeting with the guys.
Boots on the ground is how we refer to it.
Yeah. And then obviously Amanda, with you kind of do more of the kind of behind the scenes kind of stuff where you're setting the field work up for giving them their kind of orders and protocols and kind of saying this is the job that I want you guys to go and do and setting them up for success. So the machine itself that you guys are creating is such a beautiful thing, because I feel the more this message of it's not weak to speak, like you were saying, Joe, and this community that we're trying to build, if we can make that community a point where it's louder than the community that's negative and the community that's saying that the only way out is suicide or, those kind of avenues, if we can create that door that's louder and the voice that's louder, where we're saying like that's not the only route, there's other options for you and there's tools to overcome it. It's only going to benefit the rest of the world. So shout out to you guys for that, and shout out to the organisation and Mates in Mining. Let's talk about Mates in Mining a little bit more. Amanda, let's go back to you and talk about like the aim of Mates in Mining. How did it start? What was the purpose of it?
Well, we'd be remiss without acknowledging our friends in construction, because that's where Mates got their start. So if we, rewinding right back to 2007, Mates in Construction launching in Queensland specifically, born out of a need for an industry who's seen just far too many suicides. With having the redundancy trust, the super organisations, all of those guys, employers, all coming together and going, what the hell is going on? Like, we're losing way too many people. What's going on? And so some research was done from that, some studies were done from it, and it was just this unique opportunity to get all these key stakeholders for that industry in a room and go, we may not get along outside of this room, but how the hell do we work together to address this? Because we're all losing people. And that's really how we got our start. So back in 2007 in construction, it wasn't too long before, industries like mining and energy were knocking on the door and saying, hey, we got the same problem. Like we're male dominated. We got people that are, fly in, fly out and drive in, drive out, and the toll that can take on families and things like that. So with Mates, one thing we're really proud of, one of the many things we're really proud of is nothing we do is by accident. Everything is really well thought out. We only move into an industry once the whole of industry wants it. So because we need that ownership, we need the industry to own it. The idea behind Mates is that one day we make ourselves redundant, that we're no longer needed.
Yeah.
You touched on it before. It's about how do we build a community, and quite often, as Joe started to talk about, there will be that go-to person on site. There will be somebody who's naturally having these conversations already, and it's about using the framework that we do at Mates to be able to empower that person to be able to do that confidently. So that's what we're looking at doing, and I suppose the point of difference for us isn't about us coming in and saying we've got all the answers. We're giving people the framework to build a community so that particular site, that particular organisation can look after themselves. Of course, we're there to support that along the way and maintain that, but the idea is that we're upskilling this industry to look after themselves and make ourselves redundant one day. That's kind of the hope, I guess. So, yeah, mining, we're celebrating our 10 years this year, which is pretty impressive. So 2014, there was some research done. It was quite evident that the unique challenges that come along with mine sites specifically was yielding higher rates of suicide than the general working population. And we see that, unfortunately, across all the industries that we work with. So working with those industries and the key stakeholders in that industry, getting the buy-in to go, okay, how do we support this? How do we get employers on board? How do we show that this is an initiative that we want owned by the industry? So, 2014, we kicked off Mates in Mining. So 10 years this year. That was our pilot year. Fast forward, we've gone from having a CEO and a field officer, and in a lovely twist of events, our inaugural CEO, Andrew McMahon, he has actually just come back on board as our general manager for all three industries. He started officially last week, so we're really excited to have him back in the fold because it's a legacy piece for him. You know, so he's gone away and done a bunch of other great things, but come back and gone. We've gone from a 2-man operation to now, 20 people across the country who have moved outside of one state, and it's like, how do we grow this so these industries can all be safer from suicide at the end of the day? And that all starts with having these kind of conversations.
Yeah, it's key. Like you say, it's really interesting when we talk about obviously the particular industries that you guys are focusing on when it comes to manufacturing, mining, the energy side of things, and construction, like you say, where you first began. Why is it, do you think, that those are the industries that are affected the most when it comes to male suicide stats, specifically when you're talking about it? I know mining is, the stats for females are starting to grow, but it was a very male-dominated industry, so that's why I think there's more stats on the male side. But why is it that you think that it is such a heavy suicide stat in those particular industries?
Yeah, good question, mate, because it's something that the male part of it has a lot to do with it. So when we look at suicide statistics in general, the last lot of statistics we have, 2020, 3,249 people in this country lost their life to suicide. Of that, 3/4 of that were male. That's kind of the standard when we look at any Western country. It's 3/4 of those deaths will be male. Then when you start looking at industries that are predominantly male, dominated, mining, manufacturing, energy, construction. I know in construction at last count it was something like 86% of the industry was male, particularly when you're looking at the on the tools kind of roles. So of course you're going to see higher numbers in that. But then you've got the unique challenges, right? Because as the lads were saying before, there's no one is immune, right? My personal belief and my academic sort of knowledge has led me to see that with suicide, I personally believe it's a behavioural response to life events and stresses, right? Rightly or wrongly, that's what we're dealing with. We all go through different things. We all have a different, a different tipping point is how we speak to it. And, we can all reach out in different ways. So regardless of what kind of job you do, whether you're sitting in an office somewhere, whether you're a school teacher, we've all got things that are going to get us to that point, right? Day-to-day stress. But when you work in industries like the workers that we're working with, in mining, in construction, in energy, in manufacturing, you've got shift work, you've got fly in, fly out, you've got the strain that takes on a family and a relationship. All of these things on top of the stuff that everybody else is dealing with, sometimes it's just too much, and suicide will present itself as a way to make all that stress go away. But we often talk about it as a permanent solution to problems that may feel temporary, but we fully acknowledge that in the moment they don't feel temporary. They feel like that there's no hope.
Yeah, so I find it to be a long-term solution. I think it is to a short-term problem. You know what I mean? Like, people jump to those conclusions and then later on you'll probably regret it, you know what I mean? So that's what I think anyway, you know what I mean? Like, it's too easy because, I'm not going to lie to you, I'll be the first one to throw up my hand that I've been down that rocky road. I only just get myself out of it now. But yeah, and one of my workmates actually said that to me, that it's a long-term solution to a short-term problem. But I've been down that rocky road and I know how it feels, so yeah.
Well, firstly, mate, I'm glad that you're coming out the other side of it now, which is really good to hear.
Slowly.
But it shows, right, that none of us are immune to it. I think, one thing we've learned is suicide doesn't discriminate, regardless of what you got going on in your life, how much money you earn, what hobbies you've got. Like, those things, we call them protective factors. But any of us can be faced with a really shitty time. And that's the thing, our brains are hardwired to notice more of the negative than the positive. And in those moments, and I think this is why we see a much higher representation with young people, is maybe there's not been the opportunity to discover that this worst day of my life right now is indeed the worst day, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to have a good day tomorrow or next month or next year. But unfortunately, the power and the heaviness of that can sometimes be too much for somebody to overcome. And that's what we want people to understand. We're not there to fix people. It's about showing people that there's other options. And another thing that makes us really different, I suppose, is we take the emphasis off the person who's struggling from having to put the hand up, because we know how hard that can be. We know how difficult it can be to put the hand up and ask for help for,
and
for a
being
myriad
vulnerable
of
as well.
reasons, right?
Yeah, and like Chev, it's amazing if you can be that vulnerable because, you know, having spoken with Amanda, we've both had our, you know, dark experiences with, you know, and overcoming that and coming out the other side. And, you know, people say, oh man, that must have been really hard. It's like, yeah, it was. It was probably harder to own up to it though as well, because you just thought you didn't want to show, you know, that was that stigma. You didn't want to show you were struggling. And then, in its essence, you're like, if I can put on that mask every day and show that I'm doing okay, then people aren't going to hound me, or I'm not going to upset them or whatever. So, being vulnerable enough to step out of your comfort zone and say, I need a bit of help, it's big.
That's one of the hardest things, Joe, as well, that you'll ever have to do, I reckon, in my opinion, is to ask for help. It's one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. So, and it's like, don't be ashamed. I mean, I've been, pardon me, as I was just saying to Amanda, that I've been down that rocky road, and Shane, thankfully, you know, like he's helped me through it. He was texting me every day a few weeks ago and making sure I'm all right. And yeah, I'm just getting the help that I need. And you're 100% right, mate. Don't be afraid. We all go through it. And as Amanda said, it's, you know, it doesn't discriminate. It goes through everyone. So yeah. But,
yeah, and that's beautiful because I mean, off air we could see you guys rattling each other about the technical issues, but we don't need to talk about that. But you know, it's your mates in your corner, no matter what you're going through, and that's something that we really endorse. Is that mates are there to help mates in everyday life.
Yeah.
You see him struggling getting the lawnmower off the back of a ute. Hey, oi, what are you doing? I'll give you a hand. Or, but it's that next step where it's like it's in between my ears. I'm thinking about it all the time. But if I share it, am I going to cause a big issue? Or you know, if someone says I notice they're struggling, if I ask them, am I going to make it worse? Oh no, I don't want to make it worse. It's like it's okay to talk about these things.
Yeah.
And we know that from our research. Like Amanda was saying, we make sure if someone wants to come on board with mates, we make sure that they want it and they really want to get it. But also, if someone wants to help, they don't have to have all the skills and the knowledge to solve all their issues. We're not asking you to do that. It's just asking them might be enough for them to say, all right, yeah, I know I need a bit of help.
Yeah, I think,
and they'll help them out.
Yeah, I think what you're saying there is so key. I mean, you know, with the first step, and obviously everyone knows the whole Alcoholics Anonymous kind of phase, but the first step is kind of acknowledging that you have a problem. And it's standing up and saying in front of everyone, hi, my name is so-and-so and I am an alcoholic. It's acknowledging that you have that problem, because only then can you start to deal with the problem. So that's what, obviously, when you say you're asking for help, is acknowledging that you need that help because you have the problem of whatever it is, whether it's depression or, you know, whether you're having those suicidal thoughts. And so I think that's what you're referring to when you're saying, like, you know, reaching out is that first step to say, hey, I need that help.
Yeah, and language and mindset are massive. You know,
Yeah.
that's not so much an affirmation as much as it is you're sitting there and you're owning up, you're fessing up to it. But you know, these affirmations that people talk about, talking into the mirror, you probably would have seen reels of dads with their little girls in the mirror and they're saying, you say it, I'm strong, I'm beautiful. And it's powerful, man. It's giving them that idea in their head so that when they progress through their lives, they're like, I know I am. I'm having a shit day though. It's okay.
Yeah.
And you can be
And
honest.
it's okay for those two things to exist at once.
Yeah.
I think that's what we get so caught up in. Is I either have to project that I'm happy all the time or I'm down in the dumps and everything's shit and it's never going to get any better. And it's actually sometimes those things, often those things exist all at once. And I'd kind of challenge it to saying there is, of course, we want to get to a point at some point in the future, and hopefully it's sooner rather than later, where everybody feels safe enough to go, fuck, like put their hand up. Sorry, you're going to bleep that out, right?
No way.
No, all good. We're all okay.
That it's been it's a shit time. I'm having some dark thoughts. This is where I'm at. Of course, ideally that's where we get to, because then we can meet that person where they're at. We don't have to have all the answers. And I think that's what puts a lot of people off from putting their hand up to help sometimes is, oh shit, I don't want to make it worse. I don't know what to say, all of that. But in reality, if we think about any dark time we've been in, we're not expecting a perfect answer from someone. We just want them to sit there with us and make us feel like it's okay, that we're not so alone in all of that. And I think that's absolutely key to what we need to do. But the first thing, just going back, Chev, before you jump in, mate, is because I know you fucking love it, don't you? Love to jump in. But with us, again, going back to what makes us different is how do we skill up our industry, our workers? And by the way, these skills all go home, you know. They go home to your mates, they go home to your loved ones. But it's about in the time that it's hard and we know that we're progressing to a point where we want people to stick their hand up and just talk openly about what's going on for them, reality is for a lot of people that's far off. So if we're skilling up people to notice, like, what does it look like when somebody's struggling? What does it look like when they might be having thoughts of suicide? How can I be the brave one, take the pressure off them and actually ask them a couple of questions, address it so they feel safe enough to talk to me about it. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of what we do with the training workshops that the staff are out facilitating on site. It's like, how do we start to skill people up to be able to notice and offer support and make it okay for that person to talk about it openly.
Yeah, that's 100% agree with you. Especially just going back to what you were saying about when you talk to someone, I find it so much better. Like a huge weight is lifted off your shoulders, and I find it easier. I don't know how all of you guys feel, but I find it easier talking to someone you actually don't know, because people that are your mates or family, they just want to tell you what you want to hear, and I don't. As much as I respect them and I love them because they are mates and family, I find it easier when someone is not known to your situation.
Oh, for sure, man. And it's that concept of a fierce friend as well is always good.
So, but I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. I don't know if you've got that in your life, but if you don't have a fierce friend, get one. One of those people that won't just tell you that it's good, that won't tell you that you're the best. Like, you want a hype man, you want somebody that's going to pump you up, but at the end of the day, you want somebody to be like, hang on, man, like, where are you at in this? How are you contributing to this in a nice way? But let's actually really be honest, radically honest with you so you can address this shit rather than pretending everything's fine. But yeah, man, it's just meeting someone where they're at. You don't have to have the answers. Just sit with them in it. Let them know they're not alone. Yeah. That's the key. That's where it starts. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something along the lines of the truth from a friend is sweeter than a lie from your enemy. And it's all about how sometimes the hard truths that we hear, even though as hard as they might be coming from someone that loves us, is much better than someone who doesn't know us at all sitting there telling us what they think or what we think we want to hear rather than the truth that we need to hear in that moment. And so sometimes it is a case of where we sit there and we go, hey, I can tell you what you would like to hear in the situation, and it's not going to help, it's not going to make you better. And so, sorry, while you were busy talking there, I just kind of, in my head, had that. Attention. No, I was, but I had that. Nelson Mandela was probably one of the greatest overcomers of. He was, he was pretty good.
South Africa, here we go. Look what Joe's done. He's brought us back to South Africa again. They were talking about Nelson
Danny
Mandela.
Archer. Where's Danny Archer? Block diamond, I tell you.
But Nelson Mandela, obviously.
That's worthy of a sound effect, surely.
Oh, no. It was good. I wouldn't even know what I would go with.
Crickets.
Very good.
But Nelson Mandela probably he walked through some of the greatest adversity, and he came out with all the right in the world to harbor negative thoughts and hatred towards anyone else, and he turned around and he made a positive influence from all the hatred and the negative stuff that he. And I still remember one of the greatest things he ever said was, "It always seems impossible until you do it." And that's what I think when you're talking about these situations that people are in where they're going, it's impossible. It looks like it's impossible to get out. And you meet someone who's like, I've done it. So even though it might seem impossible, when you see someone who has done it, that impossibility immediately vanishes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, shared experience, right? Yeah. And I'll try and one up. I mean, it's hard to one up Nelson Mandela, but there's a man, if you're ever looking for a short book to read that'll change your life, it's called Man's Search for Meaning. And it's by a psychotherapist by the name of Viktor Frankl, who I believe is long since passed. But Viktor was in the camps, and he was in Auschwitz. He came out and he wrote this book and, went on to a long career of helping people, particularly people that had faced trauma and adversity post-World War II. But his whole, premise of his modus operandi was, we're not what happens to us, but how we respond to it. Yeah. And it's just a really, really cool way to go, fuck, have you been through the darkest of times, but it's like, how do I respond from that? How do I respond to that? How do I learn from it to change the way that I go moving forward? How do I not make me darker? And
Did he write another book about?
There was
he wrote a few. He would have written a few.
The Happiest Man Alive. That was Eddie Yakovitz.
Oh, same sort of.
I saw that on your bookshelf actually out there.
It's an incredible read, but he was very similar in that philosophy I don't want to turn you up.
We're getting some
Who reads books? Who reads books? Just tell me where the TV show is.
You see, this is why I don't turn you up.
Podcast. I think look at the top 100
Tell me where
podcasts.
the audio book is.
So yeah, Eddie Yakovitz was very similar. World War II was in the camps and things like that, and he came out and he wrote the book The Happiest Man Alive. And his thing was also very similar to that. You're not a victim of your circumstance. And he just came out and he was like, I refused to put the hatred of World War II onto everyone I meet. Every German is not a Nazi. Every person I meet is not out to get me. In fact, 90% of people are there. The people that help me were the people that like literally I lean on, and I believe humanity is good.
Yeah.
And he just spread that message of love and just like, you know, we're here to live a happy life and we're not a victim of our circumstances, no matter how hard that may be.
Yeah. I think there's an element we can all take away from that, right? That to not react in the moment, not react to a situation, but actually sit back, like remove ourselves from it a little bit. How important this is, you know, one little tip that I got many years ago from a friend is he said, if it matters in 24 hours, address it within 48. If it's not going to bother you in a month, don't make any decisions around it. I went, fuck, that's so good. You know what I mean? Because quite often in the moment we'll respond to how we're feeling in that moment. It's lack of perspective, it's lack of context. But, you know, fully acknowledging it's easy to sit here and say, but
Yeah.
I've been guilty of, reacting for sure.
Well, you're a parent as well.
I'm a parent, I react all the
Yeah,
bloody
as well.
time.
Yeah.
And look, when you are in the thick of it and you can't think straight, it's very easy to have that blurred. You can just be like, why is this happening to me? And you take on that self-pity moment and whatever. On the back of what you were saying before, Chev, like a pain shared is a pain halved. We love using these types of terms because you can forget that very easily. And you can forget your situation is just a situation. But it's what you do after it and on the back of it that can make or break you and from there on and therein. So I don't know, there's so many narratives, so many common narratives that we have as field officers because we are boots on the ground and we'll go and talk to people post-training, whatever. Haven't had the chance to get in a truck yet. If you're able to get us out in a truck,
Yeah,
I know
sure.
Joel will be fizzing for that.
Anytime.
But
It's not as exciting as
nor is underground.
Fair enough.
But, you know, so many of the common narratives are just simple things, just like, why can't it just be a bit easier? Why has that bloke got it so much easier than me? Or why is she getting a promotion and I'm not? Or, you know, and people get into that and it festers and then there's just another situation and another one and it snowballs and like Amanda said, we use the tipping point.
Yeah.
But it's when people can sit back, reflect, talk to one of our case managers is prime because they can sit there and decompartmentalize things and just say, all right, they're not the issue right now. This over here is. So let's set you up to help you out with this.
Just talk a little bit into your mic there for me.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, thanks.
I think it's really important to like acknowledge, like, you know, have a bit of grace, give yourself a bit of grace. Like you don't have to be, you know, perfect all of the time. And I think about a little anecdote I can share with you guys, a little experience that I had in an airport one day. I was about 3 years into working with mates. I was pretty fucking tired. I was getting to that point where I wasn't too far from, you know, compassion fatigue and being burnt out without realising it. On a plane constantly, out there training, had a young daughter that had a fresh diagnosis of a disability at home, and navigating all of that was getting pretty tiring. And I was at an airport one day, and as I said before, we're really trained to look for the negative constantly, right? And I'm at an airport, I'm waiting in the security line, and I've got, you know, the mate's high-vis shirt on, I'm geared up, ready to go. We were flying out to Olympic Dam. It's fucking some ungodly hour, you know, it's 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I haven't had any coffee. I felt like shit. I got about 2 hours sleep. My daughter's crying when I left the house. I'm feeling like a shitty parent. I'm tired. I'm over it. And I'm standing in this line, and this guy in front of me just kept turning around and looking, and I could see he was looking at my shirt, and then he'd turn back. And I'm not a confrontational person, right? I'm just like never going to say anything. But part of me wanted to be like, what the fuck are you looking at, mate? Like, what's going on? And on about the fourth turn, right as he was clearly waiting for this moment, so it was right before he was about to walk through the security screening, he turned back around and he said to me, he just looked at me, he pointed at the logo on my shirt and he goes, "You guys saved my life." And then he turned around and walked off. I didn't even get an opportunity to respond to him, and I thought, here I fucking am thinking, how shit's my life? I'm tired, I'm over it, I need a holiday, I need a break. And yeah, there's this person who was, you know, took the time to let me know what a difference we had made, whether that was me personally or the organisation. But what a humbling moment it was where I went, fuck, things just are not as bad as they seem. And if that's all we can do is touch one person's life for the better, we're doing something pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's sort of what we're all about as well. You
Yeah.
know, like if we can touch someone's life, you know, so that would have made you feel pretty good when he
Filled the
turned
cup, mate. Filled the cup.
I bet it would have,
Yeah.
100%. So having him turn around and say that would have made your day, I reckon.
Yeah.
But that's what we're all about, as you know. So if we can do something like that to someone, we're happy as well. So that's good.
Yeah.
And guaranteed the
Yeah.
conversation you lads are having are doing that, whether you know about them or not. And that's the thing, right? We don't get positive feedback very often. You hear about it when it goes to shit. You don't hear about the good things. So
Yeah.
you really got to take them and share that and run with it when you get them because, that's what keeps you going.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Just something, Joe, that you kind of touched on there that I want to maybe talk about it more. One of the podcasts we had before this, we had a marriage counselor, and one of the questions that Chev asked them was, let's just say I'm new into a relationship or marriage or whatever the case is, do you think it's wise, even if we have no issues, that we go see a therapist? And one of the discussions that then came out of that was that, why not? Because if you haven't got a problem, there's nothing wrong with developing tools before you have a problem to know how to deal with the problem, if that makes sense. It's like your car, you send it for a service. You don't necessarily always send it in because it has something wrong with it, but you send it in to prevent something going wrong.
Well, that's interesting. I'd segue into one of the analogies that we use, like your mental health. If you're driving down the highway and the engine light's constantly on in your car and you keep looking at it going, I can't afford to look at that. I'm going to put that to the side. I don't need to deal with that. But then it conks out one day and you're like, I should have dealt with that when it came up before.
Yeah.
Same as your mental health. The alarm's off, the light's on, and you're like, I don't want to put this to the side because I know it needs attention. So, what was the feedback from that?
Yeah, well, as of the day of recording this, it hasn't been released yet, so we'll see what the feedback is like. But the reason why I'm saying that is because I feel that with this particular journey of mental health, every single person is going to come into contact with it eventually at some stage. No matter how happy you are, you can be the happiest man alive, as we've discussed, and you will come into contact with it. And I feel like if you ignore the signs, like we've discussed, all you're doing is you're putting yourself in a very precarious point when that time does come. My question then comes to you is that, do you think it's wise that, like you were talking about predetermined decisions in certain situations and things like that, that we have predetermined decisions and how we will act based on when those particular situations or struggles arise, that we say when that happens, if it does happen, for instance, almost like, I want to say, for lack of a better term, doomsday prepping.
Well, I want to pose a question to you. When you've all been on a plane?
Yeah.
Yep. When you get on an airplane, they give you that little sheet, right? And it's about, if the plane catches on fire and this is the position, put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye, all of that stuff, right? They don't do that when the plane's on fire and it's catapulting towards the earth. They do it when you're calm and when you can take on the important information that you need to know, right?
Yeah.
And I look at counselling, whether it be in a relationship setting or whether as an individual, that's the way we should be going about it. The reality is most of the people that connect, certainly through our case managers and stuff, it's fuck, the world's on fire and help me put it out, right? But if in an ideal world, we're doing that preemptively, we're going when we're calm, when things aren't on fire, when things are fairly, status quo, so we can learn the tool, so we can learn good practices to put in place so that when things do get on fire, it's a quick little squirt and it's out. It's not shit. This is unachievable.
See, I always ask to hear the instructions again because I don't trust plane rides. Something goes wrong, I'll be like, shit, what do I do? Yeah, my belt's tight.
I don't know if there was an air.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I mean it here. So
I think there was an air hostess. She was getting interviewed on Triple J Breakfast, or someone had called in. She was an air hostess. They're like, all right, when you're giving the safety briefing at the start of the flight, what are you looking at? Like, if people are looking back at us, if they're not looking at us, they're probably not going to help us. So they're already like sussing, headphones on, eyes closed. I'm not looking at them. So.
It's funny. You obviously mentioned the whole thing about the airplane kind of safety briefing. I think one of the greatest things I ever heard coming out of that was a talk by a guy, and he was talking about the fact that we need to own our own journey sometimes, and sometimes when it comes to situations in life, when we hear advice to benefit us, what we immediately do is we start to think of other people. And it's immediately never like, how can I use this? How can I benefit from this? But it's rather, who needs to hear this? Who needs to, it's always like for everyone else. And he was saying, if you look at the safety demonstration on an airplane, when they talk about the oxygen mask dropping out, the first thing they say is always put your own one on first before you help anyone else. And that's because you cannot get into a place if you're not physically able to help anyone, if you're not in the right frame of mind, you don't have your oxygen, you don't have all the right apparatus, whatever it is. And I feel like when it comes to whatever you want to say.
It's an accent thing. It sounds good. It sounds
Thank
good.
you. But yeah, like, so often in this journey of mental health, we always think we hear something like, I know for me, I like podcasts and, you listen to these talks and some of the times you hear things and you're like, so-and-so would really benefit from this.
Yeah.
And
who can I share it with, right?
Who can I share it with?
Yeah.
But actually, when you really think about it, it's like, why do I need to share that? Surely this is more for me. If I'm thinking about so many other people, what do I need to deal with here? What do I need to take out of this?
I surround myself with people that are much smarter than me. That's the key. And then I regurgitate their stuff and pretend it's all me. But,
Thank you.
No.
I knew there was something about you, Joe.
No, but I had a good friend many years ago, and he's since passed, but he said to me, imagine you were given, when you were born, you were given a tiny human and you were told, you are now responsible for this tiny human. What would you do? Would you do everything you could to take care of that tiny human, right? Like, of course I would. Do everything I could to keep it safe. Then why do we not see that that's what we are for ourselves? We just don't.
Yeah.
Right? We're so good at taking care of everyone else and thinking about how we would keep our kids safe or our partner safe or all of these things, or, what do I want the people in my life to gain from this great thing that I've heard? But we're so bad at doing that for ourselves. And that's the thing, right? It's easy to imagine, yes, if I was given the responsibility of taking care of a life when I first came into this world, well, you actually are. But none of us behave that way very well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's nice and humbling to remind yourself of, I've got to look after me in order to be a better partner, a better parent, a better boss, a better whatever it is. But we're not the best at that.
Yeah.
It's got to be conscious practice though.
Yeah. Let's put our own oxygen masks on first before we start helping others. I like that. So
that's an applause, surely. Jesus.
Oh, sorry.
Come on, mate.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. No, you're done. No.
Tough crowd.
All right, Joe, let's go to you.
Sure.
Obviously, you were talking about the fact that you're a field worker. Let's dig a little bit more into that. What exactly is a field worker, and what do you do when it comes to mates and mining, or mates in general in the organisation?
Sure. So as field officers, we take ownership of sites. So within our network of Hunter Valley mines and whatever, between myself, Joel and Britt, we'll share the load there. And then we obviously have other mine sites, North Parks, which is out Wild West. And then we go down to Victoria as well. Then we've got some down near Sydney. So we share the load. And by taking ownership, we chat with the health and safety management team. We try and arrange the training that they want to go through. So you start off with general awareness training or general awareness talks. We just actually upscaled. We're given a new lease on life, the general awareness talk. So if you've been through one of those talks or trainings over the last few years, that now looks a lot different. Same messaging though. So it's just awareness, building awareness for people that attend them. We deliver those, and then we also do our own training with Living Works to become trainers where we can deliver connector training and also assist. I haven't done the assist training yet. Amanda's done plenty of those. But, when we go out and deliver the training, we get to have those conversations, make connections with people. We're already making connections with the management staff. But when we get out and we deliver toolbox talks and, just general catch-ups, site visits, that type of thing, we're catching people when they're, in their environment and they're going through whatever it is on the ground there, but they've also got outside stuff going on as well because, like I was saying before, there's so many common narratives, like guys and females as well that have worked in the mining industry for so long. It's like back in the day, it was like, you got problems at home, leave them there. You don't come here, you don't share your troubles here, everyone's here to work, all right? Not bringing them down here. Now when people get to work, they want to have those options to be able to talk to people. So when we do connector training, people are saying, it's great to have these skills here. We don't really get the time if we're operating a dump truck for 12 hours of the shift or all you got is like you're calling up on your radio or whatever.
Yeah.
So you don't get that opportunity. But then you go home and someone might be struggling with something at the pub on Friday night, or they might be struggling at the local footy club or whatever it is. The skills that I learned in that connected training, I'm using outside.
Yeah.
We get so much fulfillment knowing that, because it's building a safer community. Amanda was touching on that before. Like, it's all community based. And when you're working out in your mind however many people are there, it's a community. So we feel like we become a part of that community. But then we leave site, and the people that have done the training, they more or less start wearing the Mates logo. And it just builds connection, builds community. The other thing that we do as field officers is podcasts. We sample smoked meats and hand out aprons
That
and
sounds really
merchandise.
fun. That sounds really fun, honestly. Yeah.
Don't tell anyone else about the barbecue. It's only for you lot. Mates in morning only get barbecue.
Bleep it out.
Don't tell anyone else. We'll have to edit that out because people are going to want to start barbecue.
They're expecting a feed now.
Exactly right. It's only for mates in morning.
One of the best things that we do, though, is learn. Like, we learn all the time. And we learn just through those conversations, getting out to communities that we haven't visited before. We're in, where were we the other week? Mudgee. We're up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, there's a coffee shop here. The coffee shop's open at 4:30. Who's in there? Blokes travelling out to the mines. What are these blokes doing out there? There's more conversation they see. What are you doing out there? We learn from them where they've come from, and it's just fulfilling to know that they'll be able to come to us. And we can lean on them and learn a little bit more about what's happening on that side or with that little crew. So, yeah, we're learning all the time, and that's really great.
That's awesome. I really feel that you guys are, like we said in the beginning, the kind of worker bees. You guys go out there and you're in the front lines. You're interacting. You're the kind of face of the brand at the end of the day. So, which can be challenging because you could be having a tough day yourself, and you got to go out there and you got to portray this.
Amanda, as our ops manager, she'll usually say when we do our one-on-one catch-ups or whatever, how's it been going lately? There'll be a lot of personal stuff that we talk about, footy, basketball, whatever else. But it'll be like, what are the challenges? And it's like, we're trying to get on this site. We've been hammering them, emailing them and that type of thing, but we're just not getting anything back. Then you sit back and you think, well, is that us, a reflection on us and what we're doing, or is that just they've got some shit going on? You go out eventually and you learn the site's gone through drastic changes. They've just done a long wall. They've had a shutdown. They've had changeover of staff, and you're just like, then it wasn't us. They had stuff going on. So it's like, yeah.
I think an important part of that is some of the initial conversations we're having. So for a bit of context, what typically happens is we will partner with an organisation for, we're a not-for-profit, so it's for a small cost really just to cover our running costs of getting out to site and facilitating the training and the resources and things. But for us, it's not about, we don't want to ever be looked at as a fee-for-service training organisation. We don't want employers out there thinking that, oh, yeah, you'll tick the box for the psychosocial hazard reduction stuff. We'll just get you in and that's it. For us, we enter 3-year agreements with the partners that we have, and it's about how do we become a cultural change, a positive cultural change, or how do we continue to contribute? If you've already got that going on, if they're a proactive site or an organisation, they're already doing a great job in that space, how do we contribute to that? We're not in competition with EAPs or anything like that. We want to figure out how we take the Mates program that is so evidence-based, that works so well, to help build a community on that site that it sits alongside the EAP, it sits alongside the other guest speakers and wellness programs and all of these things. So we are building a whole wraparound approach around a site, and for us, that message of it needing to be a cultural piece. This isn't fee-for-service training. We don't want to be looked at as a tick and flick, because if that attitude is there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, of course there is something wrong with that, but we will change that in time. Maybe it just means that organisation's not ready for us yet. And that's important, right? You've got to be ready and willing to receive these conversations. I think where the challenge in lies from a lot of the conversations that Joe and I will have, or myself and the other staff, is when you're on the ground, when you get the opportunity to be out there and you're hearing from the workers how much it's needed, how much it's wanted, and then we're not able to make that happen, it can be really frustrating for us. But we've got to. People in these kind of helping positions can sometimes be the absolute worst for taking care of themselves. So we try and hold ourselves as accountable as possible. Lots of debriefs, lots of, rostered days off and all those kinds of things to try and practice self-care and all that stuff, because it's so incredibly important. Otherwise you do run the risk of, compassion fatigue and burnout and all those kinds of things. So for us, how do we, we're fortunate, as Joe said before, I get to deliver all levels of the MATES program, one of which is the 2-day suicide first aid program. Mm-hmm. Every time I'm planning for one of them, I'm like, shit, this is so exhausting. There's so much to go into this and all of that. And quite often I'll go into it, there's a million things I need to be doing. Mm. I have been fortunate enough to deliver a lot of those programs now, and every single time I walk out of one, as much as I'm physically and mentally tired and drained, the cup is so goddamn full because you are watching in real time the impact that you get to have in somebody's life, and not just their work life but their personal life, and knowing that person is going to go out and have some much healthier conversations around this topic because they wanted to be there, because they were invested and cared enough to give 2 days to be there.
It's all volunteer stepping from the GAT up to the connector. They sit in the GAT, they register to become a connector as a volunteer. It's all volunteer based. They want to be there. That's when you have those really amazing sessions. And Amanda said, you got 2 days with these people. They've invested in being in there. They've had their own experiences, and I know just from having sat in an assist, you're just like, holy shit.
It fills the cup.
So
it really does.
And
regardless of, how many of those workshops, hundreds and hundreds of them now that I've facilitated, I learn something new every single time. Mm-hmm. And my background is in, I did undergrad in psychology. I've done a master's in suicidology. It wasn't until I came to work for MATES, and I'd done lots of little things along the way, but it wasn't until I came to work with MATES, which this really shocks a lot of people. I was never taught how to have a practical conversation, even though I was a counsellor, psych, all of those things. You're never practically taught how to have a conversation with somebody about suicide, how to intervene, how to safety plan. None of that exists in those degrees. You talk about the theory behind it, but an actual practical skill. So a lot of the times people will leave our connector course or our assist courses, and they'll have more knowledge than maybe their local GP does around how to talk about suicide. So we are incredibly privileged that we get to do that. And not only does that make the industry we work in safer, but you get to take that home to your mates. And the amount of times we've had phone calls afterwards to say, fuck, I didn't actually think I was probably going to use that. And then lo and behold, a week later at the footy club, I had the most impactful conversation of my life with my mate just because I went to your training. Yeah. That's the stuff that fills our cup. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you've got to invest in that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just for people out there listening, how do you actually become a connector? Like, where do you actually go to sign up to do that?
Yep. So with us, your organisation needs to be a partner with MATES, and if they're not, and you are passionate about it and you want it on board, talk to them about MATES, show them the website, show them the podcast, and reach out to us, and we'll absolutely have a conversation around it. As Joe said, what we do is once we've partnered with an organisation, we will schedule with them a time to come out and do that first level, that general awareness talk. From there, we seek volunteers for Connector, which is a half-day training, and that's around – we're not going to turn you into a mental health nurse or a psychologist or a social worker in 4 hours, but what we will do is give you a framework to have a conversation a little bit more confidently. And this is happening for people anyway. So we're just giving them some model to work with. So we teach you how to identify when suicide might be on the cards and how to appropriately connect somebody to help. So again, not about fixing problems, not about, you're not going to fix somebody's relationship breakdown or their financial problems in a 15-minute conversation, but you will be able to know how to identify, pull the, shine a light on it, so to speak, and get them the appropriate help. And then the same for assist. So that's that 2-day, how do I sit there and actually plan with somebody, safety plan with somebody who's telling me they're about to take their life. How do I do that? So it's a volunteer process as far as the workers go, but we need to get those organisations on board as partners so we can keep the reach going.
Yeah. And I think it is key because, like you say, having someone that's there involved in the industry 24/7, for instance, that's involved in a crew, if it's a person on that crew, because obviously being a field worker, you're not there 24/7 in the company, you're obviously in the office, so you're not at organizations 24/7. So when you have these connectors that are there, they are literally involved in the crews and the industries, it's really important because those signs are generally when they will occur.
Of course. And that's no different than a senior first aid person on site or a fire warden, right? They're skilled up to be able to offer a certain skill set or a certain task, and that's the same for our connectors. The one thing that we really push when we facilitate a connector workshop or an assist workshop is, at the end of the day, as much as it's awesome that you're putting your hand up to be this person for your mates on site, you're a human too, and you're going to go through your shit at some point. So it's okay to take the sticker off the hard hat or the sticker off the laptop or the badge off the shirt, and step out of that role for a little while and put it back on when you're ready to step back into it, if you're ready to step back into it. So it's that kind of freedom to come in and out of that as people need to.
Yeah, that's awesome. This is for either one of you who ever want to answer this question. I think we've now identified that it's a real necessity in the industries that obviously we've identified here. And, you guys hold quite an important space in that. Let's just, for argument's sake, say I'm the person, I'm struggling, I'm having these thoughts where I'm really battling at work, I'm struggling with my mental health, and, I'm really feeling that I'm getting to a critical point now. What are the tools that I can now access when it comes to your guys' organization in order to gain help, to gain assistance, to move past and just get on the road to recovery? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, I think having a connector in your corner, if there's someone who's training connector, they're the best person to seek out. Amanda said, you're not armed like a mental health nurse or whatever, but you can sit there and you can listen. And again, through this connector training, we hear people say, I just sat there and I listened. And it took me about half an hour before I actually heard what the problem was. Another person says, I sat there for 3 hours and they just kept saying the same thing over and over and over. Anyway, we teach people, let's move to the keep safe. The 1300 number that we have 24/7 is super important because our brokerage model means that it's always manned. People from industry, the case managers have got a lot of experience across the board from being from industry and having drug and alcohol awareness. I think Leonard has a background in social work. Joel's got great experience being a caseworker as well, and they're just armed to be able to address whatever the issue is at that point in time. And again, we'd really like to do a big disclaimer. Someone doesn't have to be suffering to the point of thinking about suicide. We're trying to catch it before that.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
That's like one of the big key messages that we try getting out there as well, because we know that it's prevalent. Suicide's, what we're trying to stop. It's before getting up to that point though as well, and recognizing that and having their own self-awareness. So for that person that's struggling for you, and I mean, you two have already lived it. You've already shared that. You've been vulnerable enough. You're a mate for him. You checked in every single day. So if you're seeking Chev out, I'm struggling, man, he's going to say, all right, well, let's go talk to whoever you feel comfortable to, because it's this walking together. I don't want to talk to anyone from work. It's just going to leach through the mill. There's no gossiping on the mine side, is there?
What? None of that.
No. But it's who they feel comfortable to go to, and they might just be happy to go to the supervisor because they got a connection with them. I'm feeling shit at the moment. All right, no worries. Let's sort you out. And it's walking with that person. So never alone, like you were saying before as well.
Yeah.
Because you can be in that mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the 1300 number, which is 1300 642 111, as Joe said, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m. on Christmas morning.
Say it a bit slower there, Amanda. 1300
642 111. There you go. That's the voice I charge a little bit extra per minute.
You're telling her to slow down, but you got the accent.
Hey, it's got nothing to do with the accent, you tonsil. It's got to do with the fact that we want people to remember the number.
Nice and slow. 1300 642 111.
Fair enough.
But yeah, so that's there 24/7, as Joe said. You'll connect through to someone immediately. Everyone that's on the other end of that phone, if it is 2 a.m., everyone has the skills to keep the caller safe or the person they're calling about safe. Then you can connect through to one of our case managers via that helpline. And as Joe said, we've got a couple of really great case managers at Mates, really easy to like guys, really just genuine blokes who legitimately are there because they want to see people get the support they deserve. And it doesn't have to be about suicide. If it is, of course, we're going to support. But it can be about anything, absolutely any issue. Everything, that helpline, whether your organisation is a partner with us or not, you will get help through that helpline. If you are a loved one, if you are a partner or a child of somebody in the industries we work in, we will make sure that you are supported. Call that number. The case managers will work with you to assess what option is best for you. Completely free and, most importantly, completely confidential. Okay, so we operate under the same kind of level of confidentiality as the medical and allied health system, so no different there. So really important. Your employer's not going to find out about it. Nobody else is going to find out about it. It's about having an honest conversation with somebody that will, as Joe said, walk alongside you to help you access the support that you deserve to be able to access.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that that number is really, really key. 1300 642
111.
111. That's it. See, you said slowly. So, yeah. So
Slow down.
Half speed.
yeah. So it's really, really cool that obviously you have that number. I think it's such a vital thing that people not only have the ability to phone it, but they know that it, like you said, it's the confidential side, because sometimes people, it's the pride thing in order to kind of seek help initially. It's like, well, what are people going to think? You know, are they going to judge me for how I'm feeling or what I'm going through? And it's just a case of having that safe space like we're speaking about. So really, really cool. And I think really key to know. Do you guys want to share a story, like we spoke about in the beginning, of someone who has seeked assistance, walked the program and come through the other side, with a great testament?
Yeah, you don't have to mention names or anything, but have you guys got an experience that you guys have helped out with, or?
Yeah, probably quite a few actually.
Just a couple. Podcast dog wants to come in.
Podcast dog, bring him in.
Come on.
Harley,
Come on.
G'day, mate.
the mascot.
The mascot.
Need to get a picture of this guy up on socials for sure.
Put my hat on.
Yeah, I'll put you in.
Yeah, look, I can think of a couple just straight off the top of my head. Obviously, we've got that airport story, which was something super simple, but I remember once, and this is kind of a testament to, this is fairly on in my mate's career, where it can be really easy to panic when you hear the word suicide. It's like, oh shit, I've got to get this right. There's so much at stake. And I remember it was my first 6 months in the role as a case manager, and I was travelling from one workshop to another, and I was out on the road, and I had a call come through, and it was from our helpline, and they said, look, there's someone struggling right now. She's in her car and saying that she's about to end her life, and she'll only speak to you. I'd spoken to this person once before. So that was pretty confronting, and that panic that went through me in that moment of shit, it's active, it's happening for her right now. She's in a position where she could potentially act on those thoughts, and how do I fix that? How do I do that? And a thing we're reminding people all the time is it's not up to you to fix it. So all I could do for her in that moment was be there, just be, and say, I don't have all the answers. It's okay to own that and say, I don't have all the answers, but what I don't want to see is you do something to end your life or harm yourself in some way. What I want to figure out is how we figure out what the answer is together. And that was all it took. It took me staying on the phone with her, just giving her a space to where she didn't feel judged. She felt safe. And I think a big part of that comes from how we, as field officers, case managers, operations managers at Mates, how we communicate around suicide, that there's no judgment. It's okay. I think it's part of the human experience for a lot of people. So it's letting people know that it's safe to discuss it, and that I'm not going to judge them for that. So that was what that experience was. And it's fallen into the wardrobe. So having that experience with her was great. We were able to get her safe. We were able to get her to a hospital and get her the treatment that she deserved. And fast forward probably about a month later, I got an incredible email from her just thanking me for being so patient with her. She was able to finally connect with a psychologist. She got some support. She was able to, in that short space of a month, she got some inpatient treatment. She got on the right kind of medication that she was looking for, and she was able to leave a toxic workplace and get a new job, which, in the space of a month was pretty incredible. But when she reflected on that and said, I can't believe that I was that close. I was that close, and I wouldn't have everything I have right now if we hadn't had that conversation. And that was really humbling for me, and she was very thankful, and my response to her was, I actually didn't do anything. I just, I'm happy to, I didn't have to know all the answers. I just had to sit with her in that space. Whenever we can get lost in sometimes what we do, I reflect on that and go, it's not about the answers. It's not about knowing what the right thing is to do, because sometimes all it is just to let that person know they're not alone. So that was a pretty impactful one for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story. I mean, and how, it's not the first time I think I've heard a story of someone helping someone else where they said, I didn't know what to do. Sometimes I didn't even feel like I did anything. I literally just sat and they spoke, and that was all I did. I just listened.
Yeah, and that's something that Joel has said as well. If you let someone talk enough about their problems, they actually start to unpack it themselves. If it's 20 minutes or 2 hours, and you just give them little prompters like, tell me more about that. What else do you think about that? they'll unpack it themselves and they'll come out the other side and they'll be like, not all their problems are solved, but like, geez, that's made things a lot clearer. And that's the benefit of having a part-time case manager in our little cohort. He's like, oh man, this person, they were on my mind a lot yesterday, but they messaged me back and said, oh man, you helped me out heaps. And it's like, Jesus, that's fulfilling. And we were down in Victoria training at one of our sites. We'd just done a toolbox, and a guy that had come up for the toolbox the day before, he came up to us after we'd done that one. He said, just want to let you guys know, after you'd done that chat yesterday, we went down to work. There was a young fella in the crib hut. I could tell he was struggling. I went up to him, sat down. He was like, hey, mate, you going all right? And he was like, nah. And he had a conversation with him, and he went and sorted out a connector and got help.
That's
and me
awesome.
and Joel just stood there and just went, holy shit.
Yeah.
Have you done the connector course? He's like, no, I haven't. But, the things that you told us to do, that was enough. So, when little things like that happen, you're like, people just need that little bit of reassurance. You're
Just
the
that
right
permission, right? It's the
Yeah,
permission
absolutely.
to have that conversation and the permission to be a bit more vulnerable and open to it, I think.
Yeah, it's just like you say, creating that awareness, I suppose, where you're not the only one. There's other people around you, and these are the things that you need to look
Yeah.
for. And then how, when you identify these things, what are the steps that then you can take in order to gain access to help? So
I love an analogy, right? So I'll give you one real quick.
let's go.
I firmly believe that we're walking around day to day, right? We've got I'm a visual person, so I like to visualize things, and I visualize that we've got this balloon that we're blowing into every day, and it's all the good things that happen to us go in there, all the negative shit goes in there too, and I say like what happens if you continue to blow into that balloon, the good and the bad? What happens if you don't get the opportunity to let some of the air out of that balloon every now and then?
It's going to pop.
It's going to pop, right? It's going to explode all over you. And that's all that is holding space for someone. I know that's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, but yeah, holding space for somebody just to let some of their shit out, whatever that looks like, whether that's verbally engaging in a conversation with you, whether it's going to the gym and working it out, whether it's taking the dog for a walk, some way of just letting go of part of your day before it explodes all over you is what we need. And that's what we can do as humans, is just hold space for each other to be able to do that.
And that's what I've been doing the last couple of weeks and all that sort of stuff. I've been, obviously seeing a psychologist, but 100% I've been going for a walk. I'm not the most energetic person in the world, but I tell you what, literally it's been a K, maybe 2 Ks.
Yep.
So it's bugger all. Obviously going to work up to it to get longer and longer. But just having that 1 or 2K walk, you're 100% right, Amanda. It's just done the world of good.
22 minutes, mate. 22 minutes of 22 minutes of any kind of moderate exercise is enough to change your brain chemistry for the better.
That's what I've been doing, and I've just been trying to get out, put my headphones in, go for a walk around the block, even if it's just for a K or 2.
Nice.
And as I said, I'm not the world's most energetic person, but I'll tell you what, it's made a hell of a difference.
Yeah, that's that's awesome. Because like we were talking off air, that guy that was doing the fatigue off-site training, the site that we just at, he was like 1%ers. If you can come up with a 1%er in your day, this guy he was talking about, he was going through his diet and whatever, and he said, oh, it might be the TED effect. And he goes, the TED effect. And he goes, his missus nudged him and said, you tell him. And he's like, oh, Tui's extra dry. He knocks off work, he comes home, he goes into his shed. His shed's got a bar fridge. He goes, he gets an extra dry.
Yep.
He goes, all right, how are we going to combat this? So his missus came up with the idea of putting his walking shoes in front of the fridge, and she's like, that fridge is locked and those shoes are the padlock. You got to come home and put them on, and we go for a walk around the block to start with, and then it'll be a bit further. Yep. And once you finish the walk, you can come home and the beer's your reward because it'll be unlocked. Anyway, he started doing the walks. He'd come home and he'd have 1 beer. And then after a week, he wasn't even drinking the beers. He was going for
Didn't
the walk.
feel good anymore.
He was enjoying going with his missus for the walk. He was cooking with his missus. They were having conversation. He sat down. He's like, I haven't even had a beer and I'm ready to go to bed. Like, it was just the 1% that he started doing. And Scotty, who you guys will get to meet, the guru, he said, when you're starting to do these things like self-care, and we're big on self-care, practicing that a bit, he's like, if you put in your mind, I'm doing this for me, the effects of that, even though it might be something you normally do, the effects of that mentally from here on in will have drastic improvements because you're just telling yourself this is going to benefit me.
Yeah.
If I give you any one tip, make your bed every morning. David Goggins made
so
a
good.
speech out of it, right?
Yeah.
But I know for me, it's like when the motivation's low, even when I'm traveling, yesterday morning I was up at whatever it was, 5:30 in the morning to get on a plane. Make your fucking bed.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is if you go and have a shitty day, a hectic day, everything's been dumped on you, you walk in your room at the end of the day, you see a nice freshly made bed, you'll feel better about everything. You walk into the room and it's chaos, you'll feel shit. It won't feel like a relaxing space. So something you can do that takes you a minute is just make your bed every day, and you've achieved something before you've even left the house.
Yeah.
Look at him. Look at the fucking smile on his face. He loves it. He's frothing
Oh
it.
yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't make my bed. There's nothing better than jumping in my bed with messed up sheets and stuff, and you're like, wow, how good
Nice
is it?
big Collingwood Magpies doing the colour.
I've actually talked to my missus
He doesn't
about
even have sheets on his bed. This guy.
I've actually talked to my missus about getting Collingwood sheets, and she is absolutely disgusted. She goes, I will not be sleeping in a bed that's black and white.
I sometimes have to just remind myself that you're an adult when you say things like that.
Yeah,
I have to remind myself that you're actually married when you say shit like
I'm
that.
actually not married. I'm actually not married. So,
That she's putting up with you anyway.
Yeah, she is putting up with me. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I love that you were talking about the 1% Club. I was talking to one of my best mates, and he's in the UK now, and I think he was referring to the book, The Atomic Habits, when you were talking about it, but he was talking about the one degree effect, and he was saying how if you take two lines and you move it 1 degree, the further apart those lines get, the further out that gets, the further apart those lines become. So it might start with 1 degree, but as you start going further and further, it becomes 2 degrees, it becomes 3 degrees, it becomes more.
Yeah.
And he's saying all you have to do is we've changed one small thing consistently, and that one small thing then will affect another thing, and will affect another thing and another thing, and then eventually it starts to grow.
Effect, right?
The butterfly effect, yeah. And so, like you say, it starts with just making your bed, but then it grows from there, you know? I'm a firm believer, and I've always been a firm believer in, like, you get up and you make your bed, not necessarily because you're coming home to it at the end of the day, but because it establishes discipline from the moment you wake up.
Yeah.
Discipline in terms of even when I don't feel like it, I'm going to do it because I know that the outcome is good. And so, you know, when you start to develop that mental toughness of like, I'm getting up, I'm tired, but I'm going to make my bed because I know I need to do this to be disciplined.
Yep.
And when it comes to something that's more difficult, you're like, well, if I can do my bed every morning when I'm tired, I can do this. And it just develops those steps. It's like,
Chev, I want to set you a challenge, mate. I want, you know, we're going to come back for a future episode. I want to know that you've made your bed just every day for 2 weeks. You can do this, man. I'll buy you a beer next time we're together.
Well, I got your number, so I might send it to you when I'm on my days off.
I need a picture, man. I need to see that.
I'll have to go home tonight and talk to the missus.
She'll be no. She's not making it.
No, but I need her to teach me how to make it. 'Cause I don't know how to do that hospital fold. Yeah. I've got no idea.
Doesn't have to be perfect,
if
mate.
That was me, I just pulled my sheets up. That's about it. But I will. I've got your number. I'll send you a photo. I'll be like, hey, Amanda, check out this. How good is this look?
I'll be impressed, I'll tell you.
And I promise I won't get my missus to do it. I promise I'll do it myself. But challenge accepted. I'll do that.
Excellent.
Yeah. Well, I think we've had quite a bit of information in this one, and I think it's been a good episode just to kind of start and shine a light on the organisation of mates, whether that be mates in mining, mates in construction, mates in energy, or quite newly mates in manufacturing. I think you guys hold a really important space, and you guys are doing a great job. So
thank you.
We obviously have first-hand knowledge of what you guys do in our industry, and so we can categorically say that you guys are impacting not only where we are but what we're doing. So congratulations.
No, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and that's why obviously we agreed to have you guys on, because we wanted to get your name out there, obviously, to help people that that are like us, that wanted to spread the awareness. So, so yeah, if anyone wants to find you guys, how do we get a hold of you? Like, obviously you got the number, and you guys got social pages and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm trying to get Joe on TikTok. We'll get him dancing up there soon. But we've also got.
I just inherited TikTok. He's not impressed.
Because what happens is you fall down a rabbit hole called doom scrolling.
Yes, I know.
Yeah,
I got rid of it because of that.
It's dangerous, man. But yeah, we've got a website, of course, mates.org.au.
Okay.
So you can suss it out. But any of the socials as well, and any questions, like even the helpline, it's, call through the helpline. They will put you through. Anyone's got any questions, just wants to have a chat about the program, or needs us to send them something to send back to their management. They want us on site, then we're happy to have those discussions for sure.
Yeah, okay. And the only other question I've got for you is, like, people want to donate. Where do they donate at?
Yeah, absolutely keen for that, mate. Because as we said, we're a not-for-profit, and we try and keep our rates as low as possible, just so we can stay engaged in the industry. So through the website, there's a donate page, and then you can select if it's mining you want to donate to, or energy, or whatever. So you can actually select through there. But any unsureness around that, just give us a call, and we'll link up with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, guys, from our side, thank you so much for the work that you guys do. I know one of the other really cool resources you guys do have is that you have an app as well that you guys have developed, especially obviously for us in mining, whether it be mining or energy or whatever. And on that app, you've got resources there that guys can go and access as well, and then find out more information on there. So that app, I'm gathering, is called Mates and Mining?
Yeah, so there's a couple
yeah.
at the moment. Yeah, so what we've got is a web-based app, which is called the FIFO Dido Hub. So we will send you the link to put in your comments description.
Send it, please, yeah.
But that one, there is a web-based app that's there for not just the industry, but also family members. You know, there's lots of good resources and podcasts and things like that on there. We'll obviously share this episode because we're a bit biased, but we also love what you guys are doing, and we'll be sharing that. But we've had an app that's just been released as well, the Mates app, and that's more aimed at our connector and assist volunteers. So it's got resources on there about, you know, what kind of support and stuff you have. There you go, Joe's showing it in the background there.
Awesome.
Yeah, what kind of resources are there, safety plans, all those kinds of things. So there's a couple of different options, but if you're not sure about anything, just give us a call. We're happy to talk through it with anyone.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing, obviously, your guys' journey.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time.
We appreciate it as well.
boys.
Thanks so
That's
much.
awesome.
It's the
And
first of many, I'm
I
sure.
was just about to say that, yeah. First of many. I definitely want to, me and Shane definitely want to have you guys on for a future episode. And
Well, you set the bar high with the barbecue, mate. So
well, as I said, it's
get some
only for
pork
mates.
in there next time, I would say.
Okay, I'll do pulled pork sliders next time.
Shit, yeah.
So
gotta be
that was
all
only
over
a
that.
test. I only give you a couple of little things to see how you go. Okay. But that's all right. No, it's exclusive for Mates and Mining only. So, no, I really appreciate your time and taking the time out to talk to us about it. So
No worries.
It's beautiful. You're doing a great thing, guys.
Yeah, we love
hope
what you're
so.
doing, and excited to keep listening along and listen to the journey of you guys and leave a light on. So.
Yep.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No, I really
Well,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
What's
Chev?
what's the farewell greeting? You know, how's it
the
say
sign
hello?
off. How's it? Go Knights and go Port Power.
Not that shit. You know, if how's it's the hello, what do we sign off with, mate?
Joe's a bad influence.
Joe's a
He's
great
saying-
influence.
Yeah,
he's saying how's it.
don't invite that bloke
No,
back.
Yeah.
he's saying how's it and he supports Newcastle Knights. He's out of here.
So,
I'll
just all the
I'll escort
listeners,
you to the
just so
front
that you
door.
know, next week it's going to be Anne introducing your host, Joe and Shane. We're dropping Chev.
Shane will do as he's told. I'll have to give him a good hard slapping when we get
I
out of
think
here.
beautiful things are going to come from this podcast. There'll be the Mates and Leave a Light on Meet
Yeah.
music festival. We just got to come up with where we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Hey, that'd be an all right idea.
That's not a bad idea, is it?
Feed your
Meets and metal.
barbecue.
Yeah.
Mates,
Yeah.
meets and metal.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I'll be
Triple
down
M.
for that.
You guys, just the last quick one before we sign off. Do you guys have obviously fundraisers that you do, like the boxing night?
Yeah, we got a fight night coming
Fight night,
up.
yes.
I'm hoping Joe will be
November,
able to tell
yeah.
us when that is. November. So it's something you can get along, buy tickets to. The money raised goes to Mates, and it's good for a good cause. I think we've got a couple of bosses that are duking it out this year. Is that right, mate?
I'm not sure. I know
Who's
that there's a
fighting?
lot of people that get right into it when they want to go and get in the ring. But last year, the proceeds, we shared a bit of the proceeds because some of it went to someone who'd suffered an injury. I can't remember his name. I'm really forgetting that. You got to forgive me.
He's
I'm
kicking
sure
himself
I was
over it
trying
as
to
well.
think it. Anyway, they'd had an injury and, some proceeds went to them. Likewise, this year, I wasn't sure who it's going to, but again, it's a nice donation that will go a little bit to Mates and a little bit to this person that's in need of it. So, yeah, that's November 23rd and 24th out at Cessnock. They want to take it to Mac Jones Stadium, but
Yeah, let's go. Mac Jones Stadium.
I'll take it out.
Yeah, our
But yeah,
birthday's on the 26th and 27th. So, so we'll have to, I'm on the
Get
26th,
behind it.
on the
Get onto it,
27th.
boys.
You want to get out there and do a couple of calls?
Yeah, let's
have
go.
some
Rogan?
beers.
Yeah, let's go.
Have some beers and, no, I'm not going to duke it out with him. I'll end up knocking him out.
You
gotta
can't
reach his
my
head
head, dude.
all right, yeah. We're going to wrap this up, aren't we?
Get your step ladder to get go.
South Africa versus Australia.
Oh,
We've already had that in the rugby, and the South Africans
Yeah,
came
but
out on top. So.
I don't support Australia in the rugby.
So yeah, you will see some initiatives like that around from time to time. We do different fundraising initiatives. Go to different community events. We'll be at the mental health round for the Newcastle Knights coming up soon. There's some community work we'll be doing. But yeah, anytime you see us out and about, just come up and say hello, give us a shout.
Yeah, and that's another big thing. If you see someone in a mate's shirt, go up and start a conversation with them, because chances are it's probably one of us. We all look like brothers and sisters. Joel and Britt.
Even I'll just say this, even if it is just to encourage you guys, because sometimes, like you say, it's easy to give the negative feedback, but sometimes we hold off on the positive stuff. So I really encourage people, if you do see someone wearing any form of Mate Smiling branding or anything like that, or go up and just, if they've affected you in any way, even if they haven't, just give them a thumbs up, say good job, because it's really a key industry that you guys are doing, and you guys hold a real valuable space in that. So
yeah, thank you again.
And look, Joe touched on this earlier, and he's pretty modest about it, but we are a fairly small team, and these guys, you know, they're in amongst everything. They're here, there, and everywhere. They're not doing it for the cash, I promise you that. It's, you know, not for profit, but they're doing it because they're good people and they legitimately want to make a difference. And for a lot of them coming from industry themselves, it's a cause close to their heart. So can't pump the team up enough. They work their ass off and they really love what they do.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
well, I'll pump the team up a little bit.
that's it.
Chef's cringing.
Oh, with that thing. You got to get me on that board over there.
You're not
Next
gonna
episode, you'll be in my seat. I'll be sitting in the big
Don't
boy
give up
seat.
control, mate.
Yeah,
Don't
no.
do it.
Have you noticed how his seat's downgrading every episode?
Next time Harvey comes in the room, it's got to be, who let the dog?
Well, guys, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we really appreciate what you do, and yeah, let's wrap this bad boy up, eh?
Yeah. Obviously, everyone, if you can jump on our socials and get on there, follow Leave a Light on podcast, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah, boy.
I say it hesitantly.
Hey, we're gonna do a video after this, a promotional thing.
You have
Should
to
you?
do a video.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you haven't got on there and given us a follow, give us a follow. And if you're listening to this, obviously we're on all the platforms: Spotify, iTunes, YouTube.
Yeah.
I think we're even on something called Deezer, which is overseas. So we're on everything pretty much.
Yeah, check us out. Where you get all your podcasts from, platforms, whatever.
Yeah.
Top 50, top 10.
Top 100.
Top 100, mate.
We're
Jesus.
75th in Australia for personal journals. We've just hit. So really appreciate everyone listening
awesome.
and getting us out there.
We
That's
appreciate
awesome.
this.
Amazing work.
Absolutely. And I'm Chev, this one is for you.
It's a circus, mate.
That's what it's like
Yeah,
working with you.
that's where we work. That's what it is.
That's what it's like working with you.
That's what it's like working out at work.
So
Anyway.
jump on our socials, give us a follow. Thank you very much, Amanda and Joe, once again for joining us.
Too easy. Thanks, guys.
From us, leave a light on.
Awesome.
Keep leaving a light on.
And
Thank
I'll
you very much.
see you next week.
I'll see you next week. Absolutely. See ya.
See ya.
Hey, thanks for listening. We hope you managed to gain some insight from today's episode. Jump onto our socials and reach out. And until next time, wherever you are, let's leave a light on.